At 21, I was stuck in university and working a 9 to 5. And now at 22, I am making 100K a month with my business and I'm traveling the world. Here's how I did it. I'm Alex and I'm running a UGC/content agency that scaled from 0 to 100K a month in revenue within 12 months. I had no experience with running a business or making content. I was studying computer science and I was working full time. And I built this business while getting in shape, traveling the world, living my best life, whatever you want to call it. And if you're wondering, by the way, no, I am not special. No, it was not daddy's money. And no, I am not running an OF agency, nor have I ever operated one, although I do like women. If all those things sound sweet to you, by the way, you're currently studying in college, you're working a 9 to 5, you want to start an online business, you want to start posting content online, but for some reason or another, it just ain't working. It just ain't happening right now. You might just be lacking these 3 things that I'm about to go through. People think it's time, people think it's money. It's really not. What I'll be doing is I'll be pulling back the curtain really on my journey as well. And I pretty much boiled down everything that I did, exactly 3 things that I did right in order to achieve what I've achieved so far. And I'm going to walk you through exactly what overcoming these 3 things looked like for me so you can do the exact same thing. And I want to preface this with a disclaimer as well. I'm not telling you this is how to do it. I'm telling you this is how I did it in the past. I was studying computer science full-time in a German university. I was living with a roommate in university to save rent. Rent was about 1.5K, like 1.2K a month for the both of us. And the job was good itself, right? I was working full-time. It was a tech job, actually. I was working for an internet infrastructure company at the time. And to be honest, it was paying pretty well, right? I was being groomed to become a manager, actually, in a good way, by the manager himself, so to replace him eventually. And the thing is, I was saving up. I had money in the bank, right? I was quote unquote living paycheck to paycheck, but I managed to save some money. And you hear this thing from a lot of people before they go through like huge life changes, is like they hit rock bottom. Oh my God, I'm broke. I have no savings. I'm in debt. I'm 100K in debt. This was never me. I was always just on the line. I was just comfortable. I was just okay. There was nothing wrong with my situation inherently. And yet I always felt like I was destined for more at the same time. And I think Fight Club gives a good analogy, our favorite movie, where it's, we live in an age of abundance currently, right? We have food, we have shelter, we have comfort. Technically, there is nothing wrong, and yet people are unhappy for some reason. And I think while we're unhappy, or what qualifies, like what is the texture of that feeling? And I pretty much found this. And if we look at this, the word that we're actually looking for is called apathy, which is defined by a lack of interest, enthusiasm, or concern. Very interesting here. And it actually gives us a pretty cool example down here. Widespread apathy among students. So I pretty much found out what I was going through. It's called apathy. And maybe this sounds familiar to you as well, right? There is nothing technically wrong. There are no barbarians at our doorstep. We don't need to fight for our lives. We don't need to take up sword and shield in order to defend our countries, right? And yet the thing is, we have no enemy that we can see, that we can taste, that we can feel, right? There is nothing technically wrong with our situations. What Fight Club says as well, it is actually harder to fight against an enemy that you cannot see, right? It is consumerism, it is the current economical whatever state of the country that you currently live in. If you live in the Western world, you know what I'm talking about. And so it is actually harder to fight against that. And it's really something that is intangible, like this feeling, like this state of being that you're currently in, is harder to fight against than, for example, oh, I don't have enough money or I don't have enough food. I need to just work harder and more to get more food. Right? Very simple. And so at the same time, you have this seed in you already that is dissatisfied with the current situation that you're living in. Again, technically nothing wrong. You're not starving, right? Maybe you're even fat or, out of shape. Okay, let's call it what it is. You're maybe even fat, right? And because you have an overabundance, we have an overabundance of food. We have an overabundance of information, right? Maybe you wanted to start an actual business, but you keep switching between things that you want to do because there's just so much out there that's like, oh, you got to do drop shipping. Oh, you got to do e-commerce. Oh, whatever. Social media marketing. Who gives an F? I believe that you can literally pick one business model and just do it and you're going to succeed. Yes, maybe some of the business models are a little bit harder to do. Like, for example, social media management is a little bit easier to do than, for example, e-commerce. Let's just say that. And that might be the case, but you're still going to succeed if you actually stick to it. So here's the big part of it. Your time is currently zapped by a lot of different things while you already have this desire to grow an actual business. Now, again, it's not about what the actual business model is, but you just dedicating your time to it. Because here's the point. You have the seed in you, but if you don't water it, then it's not going to grow into actually something that's sustainable, that's going to pretty much finance your life. And so back then I worked remote. Thank God, by the way. So I was pretty much building my business on company time. If you're doing this right now, you will relate. I had 2 laptops set up. One was my work laptop on the left side and then my personal laptop on the right side. And maybe I even did it on the same laptop, but just with different tabs open. I had like multiple screens at my work. Again, tech job. I would always try to sit in a separate office. I could work undisturbed. And every time somebody came in, I had this spike of adrenaline. My heart would skip a beat and I would quickly switch tabs in order for them not to catch me, right? Maybe it was my manager coming in, stuff like that. And I was so unhappy during that time as well. I was doing this little covert operation of mine because I just literally did not have the time in my day to do everything at the same time pretty much. And I was sitting there and I was thinking about, why am I even here? You probably have the same feeling too. Why am I even here? I want to quit this job anyways. What the am I doing here? And so I started disassociating literally months ago, or 4 months before I actually quit. To be honest, I was pretty depressed at that time. It was cold in Germany. It was like beginning of the year 2025. And it was a very, very wise man once said, you either decrease desire or you increase sacrifice. So what I was doing at this point, I still had an increased level of desire, but I was not willing to quit. I was not willing to actually let go of things that were zapping my energy. Like, for example, still studying, pointless. Still going to work, pretty much pointless. Right? Just barely paying the bills. And so I was unwilling to get away from it. And so it was growing within me like a cancer, really. And at some point it hit me. Every hour that I give to this job that is a dead-end job, right? For me, it was a dead end because I did not want to advance into a manager position and be trapped for forever. Congratulations. I didn't want to do that. And so every hour that I spent, I realized that I was stealing from my future self. I was stealing from my future and my potential. And so I decided to do, in order to not get fired, because again, I was not willing to, let go of it, I decided to do the bare minimum, like barely putting in any effort. Because if you put in 100% of your effort in your 9-to-5 job, what is left of your energy to spend towards building your dream? There is none. And so you need to prioritize properly, which is why the first thing that I did was prioritize my energy. So I planned in when I was going to work on my business, which if you're like me, is going to be, for example, during your day, it's in the morning because you have the highest amount of energy, you have the highest vibration, you feel, like you want to do shit. It's not going to be after your 9-to-5 shift, after you had a meal, you had dinner, and you went to the gym. You probably just want to sit down and feel like fucking going to sleep. Here's the thing. You're doing that, you're prioritizing your energy, but how do you actually stay consistent on building your business? How do you actually stay consistent? Because you now prioritize your time, but the only way that you're going to actually achieve results, if you do that over an extended period of time, you focus your energy on that one thing. It is pretty freaking difficult. I'll tell you that much. And how I did it. So at the time I was working, that was a period where I was working the hardest out of my life. I was working harder than anyone else at university, obviously, because there were a bunch of lazy university students. I was working the hardest out of everybody, but I was literally making the least amount of money per hour of my time, which sounds like a fucking nightmare, because it was. And so I was studying for 1, I was working full time for 2, and I was building a business for 3. So sometimes I was pushing 70 to 80 hour weeks at that time and still making the same amount of money that I would from my 9-to-5 because my actual business did not produce any amount of money back then. And that period where you're putting in the most amount of energy and getting no results is literally the hardest in an entrepreneur's journey. And you are probably in that state right now. And I will tell you how to get out of it. And so the way I want to actually think about this is this quote: a plane, while it's taking off, expends the most amount of energy. So again, to imagine this, if you see a plane about to take off, riding across the runway before it actually lifts off, that is your business lifting off, it expends the most amount of energy. And then once it's at cruising altitude, it's pretty much just cruising, right? It's just maintaining. And so you need to think about your entrepreneurship journey and your life in the same way. This is literally the hardest part. spot right now where you're getting little to no results, and yet you feel like you are putting your all into it. That is normal. That is literally what every single entrepreneur went through when they started from scratch, like myself. I feel like hearing that and seeing that it is true, is probably going to take a little bit of weight off of your shoulders. It is literally, this is what hard feels like. It is in the beginning. If you succeed now, this is literally the hardest that it's ever going to be. Fantastic, you got it. But you got to work through that first. And how I did that with this, right? So I was working the most amount of time I've ever had, pretty much working 80-hour weeks, sometimes more, and I was making zero money. I was making, in terms of financially, very little progress. And so I was putting all on this effort. I was talking to my roommate, for example, about what I'm doing, and I had literally no proof to actually put forth. I had no financial results, or very little financial results. That was the hardest period because I was feeling like freaking, I don't know, Batman, like operating in the shadows. It was borderline delusion, which is the point that I'm trying to get to, right? It was borderline delusion. I was like walking into the cafeteria at university, walking into classes, opening up my laptop and thinking like, these people don't even know that I'm running a business. Or at the gym, I'm buff and I'm running a business. These people don't know how hard it is. People in university, students complaining about how hard like exams are. And I'm like, you don't know how it really is. I'm studying and working and also building a business. I don't know if you know that meme, but that's like that dude going to a party. And then it's like I don't know if you know that meme, but it's like that dude going to a party and everybody's having fun and he's just standing there in the corner hyperventilating or like being sad, being angry, like, they don't know how it is. That was literally me, by the way. Here's the difficult part. I knew I had the potential, but yet still, for example, the girls at the university were going out with all the tall, handsome guys at that time, which is very typical. So that was really my rock bottom. I had all of the input that I knew I could put out potentially. I had zero proof for things like to back up my claims that I was doing what I'm doing. And at the same time, I was trying to act abundant pretty much. And so I looked at it at this, right? This comes back to delusion. If you're in that kind of situation, the worst thing you can do is fall victim to it. So what I did is I pretty much acted like I was already at that point. And at that point, my goal was to hit, 10K a month, which I overshot by 10X at this current moment in my life. So 10X was his big goal. 10K a month was his big goal. And I was like, what a person do that is already at 10K a month? Because remember, what most people like get wrong is they're like, once I am successful, then I will work hard. Or once my business produces results, then I am going to focus on it, which is exactly the wrong way to go about it. Because again, remember, a plane expends the most amount of energy during its flight while it is taking off. So you have to put in the most amount of energy relatively while it's taking off, while you are starting. And I was acting, therefore you need to act like it's already taken off. People think they need to start the work once they have already achieved the thing that they were starting the work for, which is the fallacy itself, right? The when then fallacy. And so I was kind of projecting myself forward. Here's the little trick. Act as if you were already there. So what I was doing, I was working as if the business had already taken off. And I was spending 90% of my energy on it. I was working out, I was eating clean, I was reading, I was sleeping well. And so I acted as somebody who's already at 10K a month, despite my bank account not reflecting that, which is the delusion part. You're acting, pretending until you're there. Fake it till you make it. Literally what I did, by the way. And you have to build up. So that's the second thing. So the first was you need to prioritize your energy and where it's going towards. You have to be delusional while you're doing so in order to not lose momentum. But the difficult part about this whole thing is it is very hard to stay delusional without the results and in a bad environment. And so you need to become comfortable being delusional before reality catches up. And the fastest way to actually make reality catch up is what I realized next, which is to change the environment. It is freaking hard to stay consistent in a bad environment. I think you notice this if you're living in a freaking frat house and everybody's chugging beer all the time. It's Tuesday, let's go out and drink. That was literally, by the way, my university experience. They were drinking Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, maybe Thursday. They took one day off, and then Friday and then weekend. Sometimes even twice a day. You could literally go to 2 parties a night, and that's what people did. That's the kind of environment that I was in. And so it's pretty freaking hard to stay consistent during that environment. I remember one time when I was working in the university's library back then, and it was summer, right? It was pretty warm outside, or like it was getting warmer. So people are going outside, like partying outside, drinking beers, and it was during the day, and there were these two beautiful girls, right? I knew them before from a class. They were coming up to me. I was in the library floor. They were coming to me. They were just coming in to, I don't know, do something else. And they asked me, "Oh, Alex, why don't you come out with us? Come out with us. Come drink. There's this big party going on outside." And you know what I did? I said no. And I did not go because I told them I have work to do. You know how that is, especially if you have put in so many hours, you have achieved very little results, you are in university, so your testosterone is probably pretty high and you just want to get laid. That's what people do in university. To have the actual balls at that point to say no to an opportunity like this, I knew that one of the girls actually wanted to, and I still said no. Here's the difficult part. You can do that once. What is the likelihood that you're going to do that across an extended period of time for forever, pretty much? Very little. So here's the point I'm trying to get to. It's that the best way to stay consistent and actually prioritize your energy, stay delusional, and not give in to these energy vampires, right? These two girls, I saw them as evil because they're trying to steal my energy, although they were just doing what normal girls would do. It comes down to, why not just eliminate yourself from that environment? And this is what I did. I stopped going out, literally. I stopped. Partying felt empty. You were pretty much just going to the same places. You were drinking with the same people, seeing the same people, seeing the same faces. It was literally the same thing week over week, day over day. Maybe you have this too. You have a group chat with the boys and everybody's texting, "Oh, you want to go out on Wednesday? We're going to go to a bar. After that, we're going to go to the club." Same thing on Friday. Same thing on Saturday. Maybe, Sunday you're hungover, which is why you do it on Monday afterwards. And maybe you look at that group chat and you think to yourself, maybe I should go. Oh my God, look at that girl that I find pretty is coming. Oh, maybe I'll get lucky this time. By the way, let's be real here. Getting lucky never comes really, or it rarely comes. Maybe it comes like twice in 6 months. And you're spending all this energy and all this mental bandwidth on something that rarely comes. And if it comes, you feel empty afterwards anyways. So it's never good, basically. And so my point here is you have to actually change environments. And so this is exactly what I did, by the way. And this is how you can do it. The best way to change environments is to literally physically move. And what I did is I planned to travel to Serbia with my business partner for at least 30 days. And I said, this is it. I pretty much sat down, I drew a line in the sand, I booked the tickets to go there. And I thought to myself, if I do not make this work, that's it. This is my shot. I was going through this hellhole for about, 6 months at that point. This state, right? The scenarios I'm describing, by the way, they don't even happen once. They happen once every day over 6 months. So the brief period that every entrepreneur kind of goes through, which is like, they describe it in like 2 sentences. I was pretty depressed. I didn't have any friends, or no friends resonated with me. You don't really get that phase lasts for months. That is months of somebody's life they're going through that. And so at that point, I was pretty much fed up. I drew a line in the sand and I said, if I cannot make this work in Serbia, with my energy prioritized, I took an actual vacation from my job. My energy is prioritized. I am acting as if somebody who's already there, and I changed my environments. And as if by magic, and I thought to myself, what is the worst that could actually happen? What happens if I cannot make this work now? And I really thought through that scenario. And it was, if this doesn't work out, I'll probably have to go back to my job. If this doesn't work out, I have to listen to the people that I quote unquote disappointed. I have to listen to my parents go on and on about, you have to finish university. See, I told you, I was right. You were wrong for going towards your dreams. I was right. Same with your friends. They will probably laugh at you and then you will get back into the pub. But here's the reality. The 9 to 5 that you might have to go back to if this doesn't work out, you are already in it. The parents that you hope not to disappoint, you are already arguing with them. You're always going to find something to argue about with your parents. The friends that when you come back might look at you and say that, see, that whole business thing is silly, come drink with us again. You are not even going to be friends with them anyways on a longer time scale. So all of these things are irrelevant. And if you draw that out, this is the worst case scenario, by the way. You have literally nothing to lose. And I came to that realization and I took the leap. I handed in my notice for my 9 to 5. By the way, just at the right moment, I was like, I was calculating the days in my head in advance, kind of like, if I hand in my notice now, I can use this amount of, I think you call it POT, or like vacation days basically, so I don't need to work until like I'm officially free, right? Because I need to hand in my notice. Here's the funny thing. I called my boss. I was working at home at that time, and I told him, I'm not happy here, I need to quit. And I was dreading that conversation for weeks. You cannot imagine how much I was dreading that conversation. I was like, oh, what is he gonna say? Oh my God, it's gonna feel so awkward. And here's the thing. After I handed in my notice, I had to show up to work for another 2 weeks. That is what I would fear the most, by the way. And here's the funny part. I was dreading going to work. We actually physically had to show up to the office, and we sat down with the team for a team meeting, the regular one. And the topic came up. The boss announced it. I announced it that I'm going to be quitting. And it was a huge thing for about 5 minutes. That moment, that uncomfortable situation that I was dreading and that I was thinking about giving up my future for, took about 5 minutes of time. And guess what? After the 5 minutes, literally everything went back to normal. After that 5-minute conversation was over, I have announced that I'm going to be quitting. I explained to everybody, hey guys, I like you. I love working with you. This is like a family, whatever the you say. But you know, I need to move on from this. Everybody was in shock. What, really? That whole thing lasted for 5 minutes. Literally everybody moved on after that. Literally nobody cared. The topic changed to, we got to do this thing, we got to do that thing, we got to publish the website, da. Here's the point I'm trying to get to. Shit doesn't matter. You think it matters to you. You only matter to you. You probably don't matter to other people other than your parents, especially if you really think about it, like not your coworkers. And guess what? I quit, going all in the business. They literally found a replacement for me within 2 weeks. Same credentials, pretty much. This is literally how replaceable you are. And I was dreading that conversation for weeks at that point, and I was killing myself over it. That was the turning point, right? I quit everything. I literally sold my apartment. I sold my car. I flew out to Serbia at that point, and I have made the most progress that I've ever made in my life. I took home in the first month, I took home about 4K personal profit. Literally more than I did with euros, by the way, literally more than I did with my 9 to 5. And I dropped out of university. And looking back, I really think if I would have just done these 3 things earlier, prioritizing my energy, being delusional, and changing my environment, if I would have made that leap earlier, where would I currently be? I really thought about that. And why I didn't make that leap earlier, by the way, I always thought about, when this business takes off, then I will go all into it. Once it produces a manageable amount of money that I can live off of, then I'll go part-time, then I'll quit, for example. Here's the thing. People say that all the time. And looking back at it, it sounds so silly to me because I was that way. It is like saying, when I am healthy, then I will go to the hospital. If you say it like that, that shit doesn't make sense. When I am fit, then I will go to the gym, right? You don't say that. No, you go to the gym to get fit. You go to the hospital to get healthy. You quit your job in order to go all into your business and actually produce the results that is equivalent to a business that somebody goes full-time into. That is literally the thing, that is literally the thing that we're trying to do here. And here's the funny thing. I thought at this point, when my business was producing these kind of results, I was still finishing my bachelor's degree, right? I dropped out. And I actually made a plan before. Literally by right now, which is February 2026, I was still going to be finishing my bachelor's. My bachelor's was supposed to be finished by March, in 1 month. And you know what my goal was to hit by March? It was to hit like 2K a month with my business to finally quit. And so it is currently February. Right now in Germany, it's still cold. It's gray, right? It's cloudy. It's probably snowy and wet. And all of my friends are still studying. All of my friends are probably getting into 9 to 5 jobs and have applied to them right now. And here's the killer. They're probably pretty comfortable. And I was pretty comfortable back then, to the point where it hurt me. I was comfortable, and yet my mind craved the risk. My wallet craved the risk. Again, most people make these big life changes when they hit rock bottom. I never really hit rock bottom. I had savings for about 6 months at that point. And the thought that I had in my head was that I can live on this money for about 6 months, the money in my bank account. If everything goes wrong, I can deal with not making any money for about 6 months. Those were my expectations, to not make any money within 6 months, to finish my bachelor's in March of 2026 and make about 2K a month. And everything changed because I implemented these 3 things and I changed my environment. And what actually happened is more than I could have ever planned for and I could have ever expected. I literally, at this current moment in my life at 22, I do not need to worry about money ever. Listen to that again. I literally will never have to go to a 9 to 5 ever in my life. at 22 years old, where most people are just getting into a 9 to 5 at this current stage. I am warm where it is. I am warm where it currently is. I'm traveling Southeast Asia with my business partner. We're currently in Vietnam. We visited Thailand. We visited Bali. We visited Korea. I'm traveling. I'm pretty much free. I will never not make enough money in order to support my current lifestyle. Literally, money is not an issue for me at this stage of my life already. I have a laptop. I'm sitting here in Vietnam. Sometimes I'm sitting in coffee shops at like 2 p.m. with sunshine in my face at the freaking beach. I rent penthouse apartments with nice views. I go on dates. I explore cultures, if you know what I mean. And I'm paying for the bill and I'm not even looking at it. I'm literally living with an infinite money glitch right now. I literally became the dude with mysterious income at 22. It happened. I am making 100K a month right now. And by the end of 2026, I want to take this company to $1 million a month. And I will not sleep until that goal is achieved. And I could have only dreamt so big because I prioritized my energy. I was freaking delusional and I changed my environment. Fantastic. And now you're sitting there and thinking, Alex, the story is nice and good, but I don't even really know what kind of business to start. Or I tried dropshipping, I tried e-commerce, I tried social media marketing, social media management, didn't really work out. I can tell you what I do. My company helps UGC creators or people who want to become creators in the first place to generate a sustainable 3 to 5 to 10K a month with their UGC business. And then because I run the agency, we place them within brand deals. So brands pay for them to make videos about their products. And I pretty much connect them with the brands, with my clients. And I'm telling you, it is literally the easiest business model to get into at this current moment. And I'm not chilling this, by the way, because it's my company and we do this, whatever, whatnot. I genuinely believe that this is the easiest business model to get into in 2026. I freaking saw dudes drop out of college making 2K a month, 3K a month, 6K a month, goddamn hitting 10K plus a month in America with no experience, with only their phone. And so I thought about this and I was like, if you are not making at least 10K a month right now, what are you doing? And this is something that I genuinely believe, by the way. Anyways, besides the point, what I realized during this journey as well is that I'm preaching, obviously, because I genuinely believe in it, for people to get into UGC, because I believe it is the easiest business model to start at the current moment. But me, myself, I have no content, right? I have not posted content. At this time of recording, it's, again, it's February 2nd. At this time of recording, it is literally February 19th, 2026 at 2 p.m. If you look on my IG, I literally have about 2 posts. That's it. Fucking embarrassing for somebody whose company makes money off of content. I know. And I have like 500 followers. And let's be real, majority of them are probably creators who followed my account out of pity and because I told them so. That's about it. And what I wanted to do is for anybody who wants to get into business as a young entrepreneur, I want to show them the way. And I want nobody to have one single doubt in their mind that they can actually make it. In order for me to prove it that anybody can make it, I decided that I'm going to be doing it myself. So basically, the agency hit 100K a month in January, and I'm actually going back and I'm becoming a UGC creator myself. And if I can do this while running an agency, scaling from 0, and I want to scale it to at least 100K a month, if I can do it while actually running a company, the agency, which is arguably harder than just going to a 9 to 5. Literally anybody can do it. At that point, you don't have an excuse, which is why I want to prove to everyone and to myself that I can do it. And so if I can do it, you can. If you want to see me do that, by the way, I am going to be documenting everything. I'm going to be going through the same struggles because again, I'm starting with no content experience whatsoever, pretty much 0 followers. I've never picked up this camera. By the way, this is the first video that I record in my life. Believe it or not. I know I seem like a natural, but you know, it comes with the territory. Anyways, I'm starting pretty much with 0 content experience, and I'm going to go through the exact same struggles of somebody who's trying to scale their business, again, from 0 to at least 100K a month with UGC. That's my goal. I've hit 100K with the agency. I want to hit 100K with UGC while running the agency so that nobody has an excuse but to get into it. This is the gift that I want to give you. And if you want to watch that journey, I would implore you to actually subscribe for one, because I'm going to be documenting everything, every single struggle that I go through here on YouTube and also on Instagram. So make sure you subscribe here. And then if you want, check out my Instagram afterwards to actually see the step by step so you can follow it and get out of this mess pretty much. So if you're excited about that, I'll see you on the other side.